Welcome everybody, this is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me today from Alabama is Will. And Will has a blog, and we met each other on through Messenger on YouTube. And so I got a chance to see some of Will's blogs, his videos, and I'm going to read a little bio that he sent over for this interview. And Will is a lifelong experiencer, MilAb, which stands for military abduction. He's a satanic ritual abuse survivor. He's a researcher and a writer. Through multiple near-death experiences and shamanic journeys, the cultivation of inner silence, and the study of the mystery of awareness, he has learned of and embraced the innate multidimensional awareness of human consciousness. He currently lives in Northwest Arkansas with 7 dogs and about 40 chickens. He's a LMT. What's the LMT stand for?
Licensed massage therapist.
Oh, okay. I should know that. My wife's a massage therapist. Okay. Energy worker and etheric implant eliminator. Okay. And so your full-time job is like a massage therapy. That's like your income producing work these days. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to me today. I was reading over what you wanted to talk about, and I was like, okay, this is, we're going to talk about some stuff that probably needs to be heard.
Well, thank you. That's definitely my intention also. So thank you so much for having me.
All right. So why don't we start off with just you were talking about discernment and the complex post-traumatic stress syndrome and the alien abduction phenomena. And so why don't we start with that? Or you know what? Let's do this. Why don't you just kind of like flesh out this background that I just read a little bit more? Like,
okay.
Like, why do you want to talk to me in the first place?
Yeah. I think because I didn't really have the most positive experiences being an asset for the shadow ops, so I don't have like I don't know. I'm not. It's just a different vibe for me talking about my experiences as opposed to say someone that was in SSP or maybe even takes a little pride from it. I don't have that pride. It actually has a lot more shame than anything else. So that's kind of my baseline perspective. I literally came into this world. I remember being born, and I was questioning things from the get-go. So it's kind of been just a lifelong trying to figure out what is going on with this place and how do I fit into it. And this seems like the universe has led me down this road with my experiences and things that have happened to me, and I'm just trying to do my best to bring some sort of kind of sober understanding to all this. That's my goal, because that's the goal for myself. That's what I'm trying to bring to myself. I'm basically trying to show people, someone that's dealing with these experiences and kind of rolling around with it, trying to figure it all out.
Right.
And I just, like I said, I'm a little bit, because I had such negative experiences, I don't want to believe them. So I kind of take a little bit different perspective on it.
So you have childhood memories of being abducted?
Oh yeah. My first abduction, I was 4 years old, saw a craft, and was taken from the backyard and ended up in the front yard. My grandmother will tell you about that one. And then I didn't realize that I was being abducted until I was in my 20s, because it wasn't a white light. It was kind of a portal would open up on either the sidewall or out of this shelf, and I would see a face come out, and then I would go off on these adventures. And so I never really thought it was actually aliens. It wasn't until later that I kind of pieced that together, because it wasn't happy. It was these weird, very strange experiences. So I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was raised Christian, so I thought it was more of a demonic thing, which I'm not really convinced it's not a demonic thing. So that's kind of that started it for. I mean, I had a near death. I mean, I drowned when I was 18 months old, and I remember what happened when I drowned. I was burned really bad when I was 5. I've had a bunch of really strange experiences. So yeah, it's just like I said, just trying to put the pieces together and figure this all out. And then through my journey, I just have learned things about life. So I just finally feel like I'm sober enough, or I have enough presence within myself to speak about these things with some authority, at least with authority within my own experiences.
Right. Okay. So have you actually helped other people that have had similar experiences to you in terms of them just trying to make sense of it all? And
I haven't had just a few people, Evie and Laura Leone. That's a few people that I've corresponded with. I talked to Og Tellez for just a little bit, but that's kind of it. Elena said that she recognized me, but I don't really recognize Elena, so I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't have any memories of space and spaceships or anything like that. Mine are different.
Mm-hmm. In what way are they different?
I mean, I think used more of just kind of saboteur, lone kind of commando type of asset. I mean, I was by myself, blowing up bases and assassinating and things like that. I don't remember. I don't have any memories of being on a ship. So, yeah.
But the portal experiences started when you were in your 20s?
No, the portal experiences started when pretty much every night from when I was about 5 till I was 13.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And then that's when it changed. It went from, I mean, that's when my mission started, was when I turned about 14.
Okay.
That's when I started going. That's when I would have, missions.
So you were having like lost time experiences, and was that happening too, or was that?
Yeah, lost time. I was having a lot of migraines at the time, and would just kind of pass out and wake up on the ground. So I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the whole time travel and taking you and putting you back right when you left and all that. I can't. It's still really hard for me to wrap my mind around that. Mm-hmm. But that's apparently what happened.
But you have family members that remember some of these kind of anomalies, like you were talking about that front yard, backyard thing.
Indeed. Yeah, and like my sister remembers the ritual abuse, and so yeah, there's definitely bits and pieces. But also my family, I think I'm a generational trauma-based mind control. I think I'm pretty sure my mom was also. So
okay. So do you have a feeling that you went through the Monarch program then, or something similar to the Monarch program?
Yeah, yes. I'm not sure I know exactly what that is.
You do know exactly what that is.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I know what we all say. I mean, I know. I mean, I can definitely attribute my experiences to that. I mean, I did a lot of hand-to-hand combat as a kid. A lot of different tortures, and then a lot of being in a classroom on another planet or in another country.
And you were traumatized as a child to create altars?
Yeah, it was a combination of whatever was going on at night with me, and then in my real life. I mean, I had radiation done. I had to my head. I had hypnotherapy before I was 4, and then where I really learned to dissociate was I had they would put acid in my eyes, and it would sting and burn, and I would. That's when I really learned how to leave my body and dissociate, and that was when I was 4. And then after that, that's when things got really weird at night. That's when I would, a lot of it at the beginning was these crazy situations where, you'd have to kill one person, or they're going to kill you and your friend, and a lot of these really crazy moral degrading things where, you can't win, yet you're deciding the fates of other people's lives. And that really got to me. That really messed me up pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I had an ulcer when I was in 2nd grade. And 2nd grade is where I don't remember the second half of 2nd grade at all. The only thing I remember is taking these tests and then going to regionals, and I remember getting in the car to go to regionals, and I don't remember what happened after that.
What is regionals?
We were doing tests, and I scored well on this one test, and then I got qualified for regionals, and I was the only person in my school that qualified. So we drove in a van to a neighboring town, and I remember walking up to a building, a brick building, and I don't remember what happened after that. I don't remember the rest of 2nd grade, and I remember I saw that same teacher later that year, and I screamed and ran out. My mom had to come get me because just seeing her face, I screamed and ran out of the classroom as a 2nd grader. So, like I said, I don't recall what happened. I don't remember. I feel like something did, because that's when I had my ulcer, and I almost failed 2nd grade. So something happened.
Yeah. What do you think your family was your family? What were they going with this? What did they think? Or
it's not. I had plenty of food. It wasn't that. I just, my father was an alcoholic, and my mom was kind of emotionally distant at times. So I didn't really have I kept everything inside. I didn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah. So your mom found out about the ulcer, just took you to the doctor, and then did whatever the doctor told her to do, kind of thing. Is that?
Well, that's the weird thing, because that's why I think my mom might be a part of the program, because so many of these things she just happened to be there to do. So, like when I drowned as an 18-month-old, she just happened to be a CPR instructor, and just was teaching when I drowned. There's a lot of really strange coincidences with that. And then, she doesn't really talk about what happened to her as a kid, except that I know that my grandfather was in the intelligence services and was very abusive to my mom. So.
Okay. So what else happened as you got older that made you think that maybe aliens were involved, or did you ever suspect that the military was involved as well, or was it just aliens? Or
the MilAb stuff for me, I didn't start putting that together until way later. But I said I have some experiences where I'm dealing with humans in what seems to be an underground base. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my training was with humans. Like a lot of those crazy kill this person or kill, all mm-hmm. that weird, that was with humans. There was no aliens there. That was humans.
All right.
The aliens, I have some. That wasn't until later. Honestly, it wasn't until I saw the cover of Whitley Strieber's book that I realized that I was like, that had a big effect on me. And then I read his book and he started mentioning the school, because that was my experience, was many nights I would wake up, I would be in a classroom, and sometimes there would be other people, sometimes I'd be by myself, and there would be sometimes a teacher, sometimes not.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the strangest thing, because I would always escape, try to get out of there. You know, me and a couple other kids would always trying to escape, and we'd get out of the building, and sometimes it would be like snowing and in the mountains. You know, I mean, I grew up on the coast in Texas, so it was all these crazy times. Sometimes I remember one time I came out and I knew I was on another planet because I saw two moons, and I was really freaked out. Like, how the hell am I going to get home? You know, so yeah, but I never remember seeing an actual. Well, that's not true. There were a couple of guards that I remember that would stand at the front of the classroom or at the entrance of the classroom sometimes, but they were huge humanoid with blue skin, which I've never heard anyone mention blue-skinned aliens before. So I don't know if that's a cover, or I don't have anything to verify that with.
Right.
But that was. I mean, a lot of nights that would be what happened, and then I had these crazy experiences where I would be in other people's bodies and experience their death, and that was really traumatic for me, because I basically it wasn't just like they would die and then I'd wake up in my body. It was like they would die, the world would go dark, and I'd be there in darkness and like have to let go of trying to be alive. And when I would get back to my body, it was really confusing because I didn't know where I was at, if I was alive or dead or what. And it just felt like my life force was so thin that if I sneezed, I would die. So that was really weird. And I think that they did that. That was maybe to get me to dissociate. I'm not sure. Because at that moment when I had to give up, maybe I left myself open. I'm not sure. I mean, that's kind of what even I think about that.
Yeah.
But there's only Aug is the only other person, Aug Teles, that has mentioned having that weird experience of experiencing other people's death and living in other people's bodies.
Okay. Right.
Which, yeah. So like I said, I wanted to believe that this was somehow that they're beaming this into my brain and I'm picking it up like psychically and then experiencing this. I mean, that's kind of always what I've hoped, because instead of these things actually happening and being real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm still with that, still kind of at that.
Right. And
but, sorry, go ahead.
It still could be a combination of those things as well. Like some
Absolutely.
of it was real, some of it was implanted. And so have you ever developed any kind of criteria to distinguish between the two?
I think I try to get rid of all of it. I mean, this is one of the things I want to talk about with people that have altars, and the integration process. I don't recommend integrating them. I recommend exercising them, like literally like you would a demon, like exercising them, because trying to get into them and access them, like there's all these traps, and they will reactivate your programming, and they'll put you back at literally square one of trying to dig yourself out of the hole. So I think if we have these abilities, they're going to come organically and naturally. Trying to use some messed up system that activated them, and then I don't know. I just feel like it's not the healthiest way of going about it.
Okay.
Because there's so many traps. I mean, there's still like my ritual is set up to the moon, so every 3/4 moon my programming resets, and I've gotten a lot better at it because I've recognized the pattern. But these are one of these. I mean, these are all the little tricks that they do to you to keep you in lock and key. I mean, keep you from remembering.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard of the moon thing. Because I've always been really sensitive to the moon. Full moon, I can hardly even sleep.
Right.
And I've been that way ever since I was little kid.
Yeah. I wouldn't. Go ahead. Yeah, it might have been a past life thing, because a lot of these weird ceremonies they transcend space and time. So that's.
Yeah, and apparently also that this abduction phenomena could be multi-lifetimes as well. So they will just track a soul through several lifetimes, and it's a repeating they track you through your life, and
absolutely,
yeah, I've heard that. So you noted here a quote from Carl Jung: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and we'll call it fate."
Indeed, yeah. No, that happened to me through. I was kind of living my life as some of my programming and thought it was myself. Nothing bad. Well, not some illegal things, but nothing violently bad. But it was still something that most people talk about as one of the behavior setups or behavior modifications they put into people, the different types of alters. So that was a big key for me, and it was honestly, it didn't really hit home until I really started analyzing my suicide programming, which is just another really, that was a really scary, hardcore thing for me to face, just because, it was, I would be overwhelmed by this feeling of just crazy anxiety, and I would literally see myself with a shotgun blowing my head off, and it would overtake my mind. Like it was so hard to deal with, and it wasn't until I, realized that's what was happening, and like I said, exercised it like a demon. That's what got rid of it. And I haven't had anything. I used to struggle with suicidal thoughts every day of my life, and I have ever since I did that. I haven't had. It's nothing like it was. It's nothing. It'll blow you like a little whisper of it, and I'm like, nope, and it's gone. It used to be like where it just would completely overwhelm me, and I would see a picture and everything. It was just the strangest thing, and it wasn't until I really started like, why am I seeing this picture? Why am I seeing all this? Like this is like different than any other thought I have in my mind. Like what is the deal here? And so that was when I really realized, okay, that there's something really going on here. And and then right after that, that's when I remember my SRA my entire life, but that's when I started to like accept that actually might have happened in real life. And that's when that's why I mentioned that what they'll do is they'll traumatize you, and in that opening in your aura, they'll put an entity there, or they'll call in an entity in a ceremony, and then that entity basically is your gatekeeper for your altars. So in order to get to anything, you have to get rid of that demon or interdimensional being or alien or whatever term you want to put there. You have to get rid of that, and before you can actually get to the trauma and everything else. And a lot of the trauma for me was very guilt related. A lot of it'll kind of take a certain flavor for, it seems like most people, like whatever you're most, whatever you're the biggest target on your back, that's the one they'll use where you're most likely to be manipulated. So that's, yeah.
So most of the guilt that you had identified were experiences from this incarnation, you think, or was it, or
yeah? Denny, this is what I don't understand. I don't know, because I have kind of almost two timelines in my head, and I don't know how to make sense of it. So I don't really. To me, the 20 and back thing sounds really, that's pretty out there. And it sounds cool, but to actually apply it to yourself, like that's a totally different thing. So but I don't know. For the longest time, I thought that this was the second time around for me in this life. Like I screwed up the first time, and they just put me back to like redo it because I screwed up so bad. So that's kind of, yeah.
So when you say screwed up, what do you think you did?
Well, this goes back to my missions, to my labs, where I was, actively. Most of it was my attitude when I was a soldier. I was completely ruthless. I killed civilians. I didn't care at all about human life. I was a machine. I was a machine, and it wasn't until I was on a mission. I was trapped. I was out of ammunition, and I was just basically waiting to die, because I was surrounded, and this German-speaking cyborg guy pulls up in a Jeep, and I figured he's just going to kill me. He doesn't. He wants to fight hand to hand, like honor style, and because he says he won't kill an unarmed man. And I'm like, okay. So we fight, and I win, and I pick up his gun and shoot him 4 times in the head and walk away. And that was the first time that I ever had a thought in those dreams that I considered myself, because I started second guessing. Like, I was like, I thought these guys were ruthless killers, and why would they want on, like that? It just caused some cognitive dissonance in me. And then, not too long after that, that's when I would wake up in a mission, and I realized that I was under mind control. And not only am I under mind control, but everyone in the world is under mind control. It seemed like this was in the future. I mean, all the times that I was fighting, it wasn't in my 14, 13, 15-year-old body. It was always in a full-grown male body. And so I'm not sure if that was the future or what, but it seemed like the future. And I guess my guilt came from is that I helped bring the system into play. Like, I was a part of the cog of the machine that brought this control system. Mm-hmm. And that's not what they told me when I signed up. And I felt betrayed, and I was really pissed off. And if I had to kill civilians, I didn't care, because I figured, to me, they were puppets. They were already dead in a way. So, that's.
So is that what this second chance is about?
Yeah, for me.
Okay.
For me. When I got out of college, I was offered a officership in Office of Naval Intelligence, and I didn't take it because of all the experiences. I didn't want to have anything to do with killing people or taking orders or anything like that. So yeah, this second chance was for me was to try to get my soul back, and also keep that future from happening.
Right.
That's horrible. I can't. That's a nightmare. I just can't think of anything. I don't know. That's the loss of free will. Like that. That's so sad. It's tragic. I don't. And from everything I've learned about the Creator, that's not what he had, or that's not what was envisioned with the intention. I really do feel that if we can clear away all the dross of manipulation and interdimensional weirdness, and we're actually just humans with our own DNA, I think that we are magical, godlike creatures, and we just have forgotten this somehow. So that's kind of, my goal is to remember and to help other people remember who they really are, and that's kind of where I'm at. Almost from a spiritual perspective, like some of these experiences maybe were just leading me towards a certain belief system and a certain actions in the later part of my life. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the way I took it for the longest time. Like that was my training to make sure that I didn't, just get a 9-to-5 and not care about, just to live my normal happy existence without kind of my blinders on. Like for whatever reason, I was supposed to look at things.
All right.
And I enjoy it. I like it. It's cool. It's no big deal. I'm happy to.
This is interesting. So you also wrote let's see, I want to go to the next one here. Mind and emotional control abilities of the aliens/interdimensionals. They cover the dreams and cover memories.
Yeah, I guess my best example was my memory of dying, and what happened after that was I woke up in a pod, and there was this.
You died in your body?
I died. This is when I drowned. This is what I remember from drowning.
Okay, when you were 18 months old.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have really early memories.
Okay.
so I when I drowned, I woke up in a pod, and there was this giant female praying mantis presence that came over to me, like exuding like love that you can't imagine. I mean, just love, just press the love button to the max. And I was like, oh, I was all just blown away, just completely overwhelmed by that feeling. And, and she looked at me, and she's like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, oh, she's like, I'm like, oh yeah, I love it down there. And then I went right back to my body. So I'm pretty sure that that's where they got me to consent to coming back. Cause I definitely was wanting to die. Did not want to be here. I mean, I guess it's kind of like my memories of being born. This is where I don't know if this is me being born, or this is when they did some sort of thing where they put me back into my body as an earlier kid, because I have a memory of I was getting into my body, like being born and being like, oh shit, I'm back on Earth. Fuck, bleepity bleep. Like I thought that I was done with here. I thought I was done. And the last thing I remember before I lost my awareness was, it's really confusing down there, and like that's something that's just echoed through my head, like just to be, I don't know. I mean, don't take the carrot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just got to be careful. It's really tricky down here. So that's kind of been my whole, that's the flavor of my life. I mean, it's definitely jaded me in a way. So, that's, I mean, like I said, I've came into this world like pissed off that I was here and questioning everything. So that's kind of, and so the mind control with the aliens, I mean, they'll do all sorts of things to get you to consent. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for permission to come into your body, to mess with your genetics, anything. And it could be as simple as being a kid, like, oh, it'd be cool to be abducted by aliens, or I would like to meet an alien. And then they'll be there. If you're one of these bloodlines, or if you show any kind of anomalous DNA or mental expression or energetic expression, they seem to really key in on any kind of difference. Anything outside the norm, you're going to get their attention. And like I said, the Dracos are real big into that whole. They want your consent. They want you to give your power to them. Mm-hmm. And like the Greys, I mean, they can paralyze you. They don't have the emotional control that the praying mantis do. Because besides my own experience, a lot of people that have abductions will be freaking out, and then the praying mantis will come over and and bliss them out and be like, oh, it's all love and good, and then they go back to being a good subject on the table, and mm-hmm. And I just. I don't I just don't trust them. I don't like it. So it seems like we have this thing that we believe our emotions is somewhat, I don't know. Some people think that our emotions are kind of off limits to the aliens, and I don't think that's the case at all. I think they can manipulate our emotions, no problem.
Right.
Sorry to be all scary, doom and gloom, but
no. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, the moral of the story with the whole, it's like there's levels. Like once you learn to beat the Greys, then you got to deal with the insectoids. And once you learn to beat them, or basically, it's not even beat them. It's just your presence gets too strong for them to handle. Right. You have too much of your own your own soul in you that they don't want to deal with you, because you're connected to all that is. Right. And if you really concentrate, you can erase them from existence.
Right. So.
And then the Draco, they're even more manipulative. They like to they'll create dramas for you. I mean, they like to set up things. Like, that's why I think the reptilians, like what Eve talks about, the love bite, like that's their signature thing, is getting you into these crazy, weird, narcissistic relationships where you spend all your energy going around in circles, trying to help somebody or that. Right. Because the Draco, when I finally confronted the Draco that I had connected to me, that was the conversation where, he said that I promised him that I would help him and help him in the, to help their race and everything. And I just said, like, I can't handle this anymore. Your vibe is way too dark. I just can't do it. I know I might have agreed to in the past, but I can't do it right now, And its face went from like, the kind of like, oh, help me, to like complete change over like evil, like totally manipulative. I was like, holy, like it just changed just like that. As soon as I stopped playing games, like their attitude completely changed. And that's another big key for discernment is if you have a guide or anything, these things, do something they don't want you to do. Like test them, see them. Like if you're going to make friends with these guys, like if you're going to have guides, it's you got to think of it like a friend relationship. Like how do you make friends? You get to learn them. Like, oh, we have the same likes, we have the same intention, like the trust can slowly form. When you have a guide that comes in and blows you out by the vibe where it looks like a god or something like that, and you immediately think that it has authority over you, then it's going to have authority over you. So you just realize that all these entities, they need us for some freaking reason, like they wouldn't be interacting with us unless they need us for some reason. So really we have the power if we just realize our place in it, everything. So that's my little soapbox there. But
test the spirits.
Test them.
Yeah. Screw
up. Joke around with them. Piss them off. Offend them. If they're really the light, they're not gonna. They'll know that how confusing and weird it is down here, and they should know that. Like, I asked the light ones not to even show up with me because I like if they're gonna help me out, just do it. Just do it. Because that's what the light does. Like, if you want to help somebody, you just go and help them. You just do it. You're not looking for whatever. You're not looking for anything else. You're just going to help things. And that's kind of my attitude towards the spirit world. And I'll deal with Dracos. I'll deal with reptilians. If they want to come to me, I'll do my best to take out their implants. I don't like things being slaves. I don't like slavery. So if I can help free them, I will do it. But I definitely, you just have to humans have to realize our place. Like we are the gods of the third dimension. We are the creators here. We forgot that and it's been messed up, but we are really the ones. We are the link in the multidimensionality. So once you really embrace that, there's really nothing any of them can do to you. Even the electromagnetic stuff, like, if you really ground yourself and get into your own chi and learn your own body and learn how to not take the bait when certain things arise and just sit with yourself, and like even the electronic harassment will not affect you. Mm-hmm. And I'm a firm believer in that. It does take some working some muscles you haven't worked before, but I feel like from a higher point of view, that's kind of what that TI experience is to push you into a greater power, greater understanding. If you can take it, right. Or, but it destroys a lot of people. So it's not, it's a messed up thing, but I definitely do think that we have the power literally to control the quantum field around our body.
Yeah, you don't need to fight the technology with technology. You can fight with your own consciousness. And okay.
And wouldn't you want that anyways, to be even stronger and have? That's a magical ability, And
hell yeah!
It can start so small, but that's where it starts. Like that's how you build it. Anyways,
right.
Getting all football coach here, but yeah.
Okay, you're from Arkansas. You're forgiven.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Texas, even worse. So yes.
There's a team out there somewhere that needs you.
Yeah, it's funny. That's another lifetime. That's another fork that I took. Because that's what I got voted as in high school, was most likely to be a football coach. So.
But you were never in the military.
Never, no.
So you went to college and they tried to give you a commission in the Navy. So we have some similarities, you and me.
Cool.
Yeah, I have a memory when I was a baby and actually waking up and they put you in those little things, And I remember waking up, and the story's tied in with my mother seeing my dark. I have really dark eyes, kind of like yours. And she says it looked like two black olives on a white sheet, because they gave her drugs and stuff, I guess. And then I think later on, not then, but later on, I must have thought back to that story, and I had this WTF, what am I doing here? The same thing you said. Like, I thought this was over. I thought I didn't have to come back.
Thought I was done.
And I don't know whether that's something that I just projected back onto myself or not, or whether it was for real. But anyway, I just kind of identified with when you said that. I go, shit, that's the same thing I thought.
That's awesome.
Anyway, well, it maybe not.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that it gives you motivation to live your life a certain way. I mean, there's definitely certain things that you want to figure out. So, for better or for worse.
Yeah. Okay, so you've also got noted here, it says time-based mind control, dissociative identity disorder, and the role of extraterrestrials interred in altars and memory caps.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was mentioning about how when they do trauma-based mind control, they usually put a demon or as your main handler of your altars.
Okay.
And they get you to dissociate to the point where you get so good at dissociating that being can just drop into you just like that.
Okay. And then that's also the mechanism where they put like implanted memories?
They can put implanted memories. They can put training in there. You're basically like a sponge. I mean, you're almost like a computer at that point where they can tell you what they want to tell you and you like nod and do it. Just like being hypnotized, and they say walk around like a chicken. I mean, they put you in that state and you do what you're told.
All right. So did you have any experiences in your day-to-day world where something like that had happened to you? Like where you kind of become a sociopath or a psychopath and in your or was it always kind of like an otherworldly experience? Or did you ever have episodes where you were like, where they turned you into what they were trying to create, and then you acted out that role in your waking hours, so to speak?
I've been very tight controls of myself. I know that I've had this monster within me, so I've been always very, very conscious of my behavior. And
even when you were young?
Even when I was young, especially when I was young. Okay. Especially. I'd try to be a really good kid. I did, because if I messed up, I got punished severely anyways. So, I had to, like I said, I thought that God was punishing me for some reason, So I tried to live a very pious life. I pray. I would pray like crazy. I would go to sleep praying. And then when I didn't get in, these experiences still kept happening, I didn't know what to think,
Right. Were you raised Catholic?
Mm-hmm.
You were? No.
Yeah. Should have known, right?
Long lost brother. Shit. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.
I don't care. No.
No. I'm teasing you. Yeah. I'm like, what's the next thing we're gonna have in common? Okay.
You look a lot taller than me, so.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm only 5'7".
What? You're like my height. That's funny.
Yeah.
Wrong again.
Can you hear a howling dog in the background?
A little bit.
Oh, that's our red and white border collie. He didn't get to go to class today, so I think he hears my wife coming home, and so he kind of goes off and goes through his big drama or whatever.
Yeah, we're getting real lucky. Usually there's at least 18 crows by now by the roosters, so we're doing really lucky right now.
Cool.
Usually they get like right by the window and crow their butts off, like this morning. But yeah.
Yeah. All I have is hens, so they're pretty quiet.
That's smart.
7 hens.
That's smart. But I do like the little babies running around. It is fun.
Yeah. So you have ours get broody, but I've never had any baby chickens around. What kind of chickens you got?
I have phoenixes. Those are the ones that go broody all the time. I have these Sumatras, and then I have ice bars, which is Swedish. I have Icelandic ones, and I have lavender astrolorps and lavender astrolorps.
Wow.
And then a Schwarzhona too.
Wow.
Another Swedish birds. I got real into it. I loved it. I mean, I have a incubator, and
okay. Serious.
And I was ordering eggs off eBay, and I had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, chickens. Yeah, we're cooling on it here because the predators give us such hell.
Yeah.
Mostly raccoons. They're the worst. Okay. So you've also got on here bloodlines, blood oaths, the passing of trauma through generations, and your experiences with who you suspect is Enki, the multiple personality trickster god, and ritual abuse, etc.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is pure theory. I don't on Enki. I don't know if that's him or not. But through regression, I had the same, and even in my SRA that I remember in real life, like
what's SRA?
Satanic ritual abuse.
Okay, all right.
Like the leader, the guy that was performing the ceremony, like I could see another being, like basically that it was possessing him to do the ceremony. And every abduction experience I've ever had involves this same guy. Like when I was taking him when I was 4, he took me, and he was, like I said, he was pretty nice to me. Like he was, he told me that I was his father. I mean, that he was my father. He owned me, and blah blah blah. Which they always say that shit. And then he said I had a terrible purpose for whatever reason, and but it's been the same. I think that I was being set up to be a host for this being. Like they were grooming me to be, to embody this creature. So, just like the elites do, that's what. And this goes to the bloodlines because it's more with familiar spirits and trauma, because trauma can be passed through generations. There's been studies on mice that show that, and I definitely think it happens with us humans. And the reason why multi-generational dissociative disorder, like that will basically, makes it easier and easier to be a mind control slave. You dissociate, like it's basically, it's like there's like a groove in in your life to kind of mold that way. So
that you can see going back into your own family line.
Indeed,
not only in your own reincarnational scenario, but also within your genetic past. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's and it's interesting you mentioned that, because they did the same ritual to an ancestor like somewhere in the 1700s. Because I remember the same, like it was the same ritual they did to me as they did to my ancestor. Because I saw it in a completely different timeline, like a completely not timeline, but a different time period.
Okay.
Because the one I remember was in my backyard. I mean, that was in my backyard. So, yeah.
So you've also had regression therapy then too, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
With someone local there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was productive? Was that helpful to you, or?
I mean, I think I would have a different process if I was doing it, but yes, it was. I needed that. I mean, I needed to go there in order to. I mean, a lot of it is just the will to act, to want to remember these things and to face these things. Because I literally had, like, I moved every 9 months from when I was 13 till I was 36. Like, I would get the feeling that somebody's watching me and that they found me again, and I would move again, and I would just move and move, trying to escape this stuff. And then I finally got a place here, and I stayed for a couple of years. And then after a couple of years of being stable, I finally felt ready to face all this stuff that I've been running away from my whole life.
Mm-hmm. At what age was that?
Last year, 38.
Oh, okay. All right. So a lot of this is recent for you then.
This is all. I mean, yeah. I mean, all the experiences have been there. They just have been floating around in a cognitive dissonance, like in some compartment that I don't want to deal with, that caused me to, like, to the Jung quote of, like, until you make things conscious that are unconscious, you're gonna think it's fate, which I just thought that's how I was. And this is me, and I do these things, I'm a nomad, and blah 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 blah. And I think that was programming. or at least me trying to deal with it,
And you started your blog last year?
I started it just a couple months ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, I
So
like I said,
you've done a lot in a relatively short period of time then.
Yeah, Thank you. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, when I want to do something, I do it. So, I mean, I'm not whatever. I mean, I was ready to tackle this.
Yeah. Because some of the people I've interviewed, they kind of like start to wake up, and then years go by for them to like start doing some of the. I mean, everybody's different. I mean, I'm not trying to judge or anything like that, but I mean, it's just. I'm just getting the impression that you've bit off a lot in a relatively short period of time. Sure. I mean, in order for to start getting your memories back, start putting things together, and then go public. It's like right on top of each other, kind of. Where most of the people that I know about or read about, it's been years of this kind of integrating or waking up process, and then the going public part comes later.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I guess my whole point was to show somebody going through this process trying to figure it out. Like that's not having the end product where you sound all like, like still see me with like the confusion and the doubts and the raw emotion, because that's where I feel like that's where a lot of people are,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we look at these people that talk about this stuff like kind of like, man, that's awesome that you can get up there and talk with that and not break down and all these different things. I hope to be there someday, because it's still pretty raw for me.
Yeah, and that's probably not the reality for a large number of people who will probably never go public.
Right.
It's just a kind of an ongoing uncovering that they're never really going to get comfortable with it. I mean, it's not, and that's kind of maybe not the point anyway.
Well, I mean, a lot of it was because I was scheduled, or I had the chance of being on that TV show, and I kind of wanted to put something out there that had my own perspective on it. So
tell us about that. What?
Yeah, so I got these crazy burns last year, and I posted the pictures up on alienhub.com. It was just a forum, and I caught the attention of a TV producer, and we talked a couple times, and then I was invited out.
He was a local guy?
No, this is the same company that does Ancient Aliens.
Oh, okay. All right.
So they flew me out to LA, and I did 2 days of shooting, and did an EEG, checking out my brain waves to make sure I didn't have some crazy anomaly, and I did a lie detector test with a ex-Secret Service agent, and then did a hidden regression session all on camera, which was really hard. That happened, and I kind of got real emotional during it, and I probably said something.
Last year? Huh? Was that last year?
No, this was in April.
Oh, in April. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything's happening right now. Oh, God.
So I wrote. Yeah, I decided to. I mean, I've been thinking about writing all this for a long time. Like I said, I'm now a creative writing major in college, so. Writing's always been a part of me, so it wasn't hard to turn that towards my own experiences.
Okay.
I do all the time. So.
So with the TV though, they never did do anything with that material. Then they just.
It's all sitting in the server somewhere, I'm sure.
And they own it.
Yeah.
They own it, so you had to sign it like a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if they came back and said, "Hey, we want to do this," well, they don't even need to ask you, do they? They could just put it out.
Yeah,
right?
like my stuff, I could show up on some TV show, yeah, just without not even knowing. So I don't think so, because they were supposedly filming the pilot. I was going to be in the pilot episode for a whole new TV series, kind of, but I haven't seen the pilot at all, so I don't think it made it out of the box.
If they did decide to use it, do you think they would let you know first, or would they just go ahead and use it?
I think so. I think we had. I mean, I definitely left on good terms. They were happy with what I did. Yeah, I definitely think they would give me a heads up. I mean, they were very nice to me. I mean, there was nothing bad. I mean, the producers, they make a show and then they take it to the executives, and then the executives say yay or nay. So I'm sure it had nothing really to do with her at all, because she went pretty much out of her way to get me to come out there. So that was somewhat hesitant.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I mean, they were real nice. So yeah. Just didn't make the cut, I guess. Like I said, I don't, my message is not, my message is personal empowerment, and don't trust these guys. It's not, there are space brothers and they're love and light stuff. So it's a different, and I'm not sure that's the most popular view and point.
Well, it's not, otherwise we'd see it. Right? I mean,
right.
So I actually been encouraged by some of the things that I've seen lately from the likes of those type of folks like Gaia TV and stuff. They had what's her name? Yara Isley, or she was a woman Air Force, and she didn't have a very positive.
Yeah, she worked for the Dark Fleet.
Yeah,
she worked for the Nazi.
Yeah, so. Anyway, and then there was some other stuff that came up, but I mean that's not what this interview's about. But yeah, I mean it's the big venues are not really telling stories like yours. There could be some acknowledgement of stories like yours, but it's not the main course. It's the dressing on the side or just some other aspect.
Yeah, I mean it's. I went to my first UFO conference actually up here in Arkansas. I think at the end of April after my filming, and just to kind of see what was like. I'd never been to one, and just to see. And yeah, it was all the government. Humans are bad. We're screwing up the planet. Blah 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 blah. And the aliens are here to help us, and all that stuff. And it just, that's just not my viewpoint. It's just not my viewpoint.
So, did you meet anybody there with your viewpoint, or did you feel like totally alone?
Pretty much totally alone.
Really?
Yeah, because even in the question section, no one mentioned anything about. Because I almost wanted to go up there and so what do you say to people that had a negative, that interpreted it as a negative experience? What do you say to those people? But I at that point, I just didn't even care. I realized that they're, this is. I don't know. I mean, it was kind of like a cheerleading big prep rally or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't different. I mean, I think
I understand.
There's other places. I think there's every once in a while they'll have a bunch of people that speak a little bit more to my point of view. Okay. There was one in Philadelphia, but that's a long ways away. But yeah. Anyways, it just.
So you mentioned Eve Lorgan, and she kind of has the same or very similar outlook as to you in terms around these kinds of experiences, for people that that maybe have gone through something similar to what you've gone through. She's got kind of a narrative that's more in alignment with your experience, and and then there's James Bartley, kind of the same. I tend to lump those two together. I'm not sure if that's appropriate, but I kind of do.
Well, they were friends back in the day, so yeah.
Yeah, and is there anybody else that you've been reading or looking at on YouTube or aware of, out there that, for the reason I'm asking this is somebody saw this interview and go, oh man, that's exactly what he's singing my song right now.
Right.
So, where could I go to kind of learn more or get some corroboration or kind of take that point of view and develop it or get some more education around it or.
I mean, besides Eve and James, there's not really that many people that I know of. My friend Stephen Popiotek that I mentioned. I mean, he's definitely on the same vibe with, kind of believing in the potential of humanity, and I mean, a lot of it has to do with just believing in humanity, believing in humans, not thinking that we're this mistake or whatever. I mean, a lot of it has to do with that. It seems like, and just. I think I enjoy their perspective. Anyone who has sobriety, I appreciate, and even that. I mean, I will still take things from, like I've listened to Elena, and I mean, I've even looked at some of the way early of Corey, Mr. Good. I mean, I've looked at all that stuff, and I understand. Like I don't. To me, it's just like if you've been in a program, then you've been programmed. You've been mind controlled. So how do you know like what is real and what's not?
Right.
Because it's all these, you're remembering things that happened years and years ago that you didn't know before. And like, I mean, I just know I've watched a lot of science fiction and read a lot of things. Like it's really hard for me to count on those as actual memories because I just been exposed to so much. And also I know that there's a certain narrative that, I mean, that goes into like why they would do it is there a certain narrative that's being presented that maybe doesn't give us the most power in the end? And I guess that goes back to the discernment thing, but that's kind of where, I mean, that's where I'm at was, like who has the power in this situation.
Right.
And if you're just a psychic, I mean, if you're just being used, for your abilities, astrally or whatever. I mean, it's like that sucks. I mean, it's just not empowering. It's not super soldier. It's not anything. It's horrible. I mean, it's freaking injustice. So that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I like I said, I respect your experiences. Absolutely. I'm not going to say you didn't experience that because it's hard to tell quantumly what's real and what's not real. If it affects you, then it's pretty much real. So, that's just a matter of what you do with it afterwards.
Right. Yeah, and I don't really, like this kind of like hard bitten, negative experience kind of viewpoint that a lot of people would say you have or whatever. I don't really think that's necessarily negates the woo-woo stuff. They're not mutually exclusive. I mean, there's elements of both of those approaches that are very valuable in terms of discovering what's going on. You just have to be careful, like you said, the discernment part of it. If your testimony is being brought forth out of a very confusing set of memories, that needs to be taken into consideration. Anyway.
Yeah, I just don't have recall like those other guys at all. I mean, I don't have. I remember. I mean, to me, there's like things I remember, and then there's things that I've heard about, like from regression, which I still hold even more grain of salt, and then there's stuff that I've gotten from psychics, which even more grain of salt because I don't know. My best friend is a he's a biochemist, so when I talk to him about these things, I have to be very I have to give him something real to bite onto, So it's, I mean, I really appreciate that because like I said, it makes me, when I come, I can't just be like, and, go off and he's like, oh, that's amazing. It's like, dude, you're, whatever.
Right.
So that's
like those pictures of your back that weren't Photoshopped.
They're not Photoshopped.
Right.
I mean, I'll show you the scar. I mean, right now, but yeah, no, I mean, it definitely not Photoshopped. I mean, the only thing it could have been is shingles. I mean, I don't know how I could have gotten shingles at my age and not being that unhealthy, but I mean, that's the only thing it could have been. But I've never seen shingles scar. And like I said, I have a scar that big on my back. I mean, and it's in that crazy hourglass, two triangles kind of pointed, and it looks like two long fingers. I mean, it's like two long finger marks and then this weird kind of like the saying, like on the back of a Black Widow, that two
Right.
triangles touching at the apexes. So
what's the story of that? I mean, what tell us the story. Like, did you just woke up with that one morning and had no memories of how it got there, or what's the story?
Well, I mean, the day before, this is what I don't understand. The night before, so I woke up one morning, and then so the whole that night I don't remember anything happened. The night before that, I had a dream about being on a ship, and I knew something was up because I was all by myself, and I was like, I'm all by myself on a ship. Like, there's something weird going on, because they never leave you alone. I mean, they hardly ever leave you alone. So I knew something was up, and but that was the only memory I had, or only whatever experience memory. And the next morning I woke up, and that's when I got circled by a black helicopter, literally 100 yards above my house. Like, my dog's barking, my chickens squawking, running away. And yeah, that's when I knew, okay, I was like, well, something's going on. And that also was the same time that I started taking, because I was getting astral visitations, like, just in my normal life. Like, I could see for a while there. I just was it seemed like I was so open or something, but I could literally feel and see in my mind's eye entities, and I was doing all these things, like fighting reptilians, like hand to hand, whatever, in my, whatever the hell that space is. And they kept coming back. They kept coming back and kept coming back. So I was like, okay, well, how about I take out your implants, and that next morning, that's when I got the burns, was after I helped a couple of reptilians take out their implants. So, which, I mean, that all sounds so crazy to me, but I mean, that's what happened. I mean, that was, and it seemed to be a retribution thing. Like, it was like they were getting me back for something. And I got the distinct feeling that they were trying to kill me. So I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know who intervened to save my ass. I have no idea.
Yeah.
All I know is I woke up and I had an itch, and then by the time I got up to the bathroom to look in the mirror, like, it had all turned red. Then a couple hours later, it had crazy raised blisters, like a half an inch off my skin, just like a burn, Wow. I mean, I've been burned before, and I know what that feels like. You know?
Right.
And I know what it does to your skin, and it puffed up like a burn. And so I assumed that I got burned somehow. And I just don't know how.
And when was that? That was recent too, right? I mean, that
was roughly 13 months ago.
13 months ago. Okay.
Mid July, because it was right after my birthday.
And then about what? So like 8 months after that, you started the blog?
No, I just started the blog. Let's see. I think my first post was in May. Yeah. I just started that recently.
Okay.
I had all this stuff written for my book, so it was more of like taking bits that I'd already written out and just putting it on my blog. Because I don't even know. I mean, I was getting so much out of writing my experiences down. It was helping me process my trauma so much and remember details, that I just got into it, and I just started writing everything I could remember. Everything I could, I wrote down, just to alleviate myself of the trauma behind it.
Okay. So did you do like a timeline? Like, I know a lot of guys that are getting their memories back, they actually build a timeline. Did you? Yeah,
I mean, I have a somewhat timeline. I mean, like I said, it seems like I had two lives. Like, it's almost like I can tell you how it progressed, and that, like, it went from unfortunately, and this is where I even question myself. I mean, the Donald Marshall stuff, where he talks about, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
no.
He mentions the cloning centers, and I hate to bring it. Anyways, there's this thing. I mean, Og talks about it. Telez. I mean, he talks about these cloning centers and how they're able to take your astral body and put it into clones, and and so that's. I mean, for a long time, that's what I thought was happening to me, because that fits into my experiences, and it fit into, like, I recognized Donald Marshall.
Okay.
I remember him because I didn't like him. Like he always got us in trouble. And when one person, like when we were like a group, so if one person got in trouble, we all did. And
Right.
so yeah, I didn't like him very much. But yeah, it was his face that really triggered a lot of stuff. But I think that's what they do. I think the stuff happens to you, and then they'll fake memory a bunch of other crazy stuff to completely discredit you. I mean,
Right.
That's my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Because like Andrew Basaggio, like being president, and all these different things where it's like, it just like you say that one thing, and then people just don't. They're gonna throw it all out.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm trying to avoid, doing all that. So I just want to, but yeah, it was from about 5 to 8 or until I had that ulcer in 2nd grade. That's when I had the weird gladiator style, as a young man, hand-to-hand combat. And then after that, that's when I went into the classroom setting. And then after the classroom setting till I was about 10 to 13, that's when I had every night I would go through a couple people's lives and die. And then that happened. And then when I was 13, I asked God to kill me because I was so tired of my life. And that's when things changed. That's when I started going on missions. It was after that. So, but yeah, I mean, I thought that for a long time, and I don't know what you think about body testing, but I mean, I body test some really, really out there stuff. So I don't know what to say. I mean, apparently this.
You mean kinesiology?
Yeah, using kinesiology, like this isn't even my original body that I'm in. So I don't even know what to say to that.
So when you muscle tested for that, you found out that this is not your original body.
Because I started seeing myself in a stasis pod, because I was doing all this soul integration stuff, and I kept seeing a young 11, 12-year-old me like in a pod, and I could follow it. I mean, it was changing places, so it was really strange, and I still don't know what to make of it. But yeah, apparently this is like my original body is in that stasis, and this is a clone body, and like my soul that this is from some other timeline, and that's really out there crazy stuff for me.
Have you approached those subjects with phrasing the questions differently?
I have. I had different ways, different. And apparently this is like my 3rd body that I'm in. So I don't even, like I said, that's kind of another little area that I don't I don't know what to think about. I mean, it's all interesting and stuff, but it doesn't really help me, do my yard work or anything like that. So I mean, it's an interesting little antidote, but I don't know what to make of all that. I really have no idea.
Right. Well, you don't need to, I mean, it's like a lot of this stuff you don't really need to figure it out. It's just it's grist for the mill. And then later on you go, oh, okay, this is significant now because of this or this other little thing that was kind of just floating out there. And now it's part of this other story that helps me make sense of this. And then, but easy for me to say, right?
Right. but I know like there's another somewhat well-known researcher that I know that we've been trauma bonded together. Like I know that we've gone through some sort of trauma bonding because, I mean, I just know it. We both know it. And there's like a 20-year age gap between us. So, because we
have you met him? Has he met you?
I know. Yeah, I mean, I know her.
Her.
And yeah, I mean, we have all these memories of being kids together that totally do not fit in at all into anything. But I know, I mean, I remember her.
Wow.
But like I said, it's a whole other lifetime. Like it's a whole separate deal. Like it's not my like this, life. It's something else.
Right.
And which makes me suspicious because that could be, maybe that's mind control. Maybe they're implanting that in me or something like that. I mean, everything it's all about. And then you get to the question of like, okay, how does this really help me? I mean, is this going to change who I am? And blah, 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 blah. And, Does this help me in my massage practice? No. Does this help me with, it's like, so how much energy am I really going to put on this? It's interesting, but I don't, it's still, and that's another big picture of all this is that, I mean, it is all this psychic stuff and all, it is a very big, I mean, it takes so much energy and spiritual energy to go through it. It seemed like a really big distraction, because like I started seeing that Draco again. And because right before that year before last year and before I started diving in all this stuff, it was my happiest I've ever been in my life. Like I was, everything was great. And then I felt that energy come up, and instead of running from it, I decided just to, because it really started scaring me because I would see it during massage, like I'd be doing massage and I'd see this being behind me and I'm like, okay, that's way messed up. Like I'm not holding space correctly, and I gotta get this nixed because I can't do my job. So that was the other big motivation, was all of a sudden this character showed up, and I was working at this crazy haunted hotel, and I know it opened me up to that. But
so that's when you tap your client on the back and said, "Did you bring him here?"
No, he's been there a long time, unfortunately, but he's gone now.
Okay, I'm going to keep going on this here. So you said learning to control your chi in whatever flavor you like, but learn to connect to the great sea of awareness, quantum bands of awareness.
Yeah, that's just more of, praying the rosary, getting to a point where your mind, where you can stop that yapper, stop the little voice in your head, whatever way it has. The Eastern way is to shut the mind off. The Western way is kind of more just to flood it with everything else, so that voice is drowned out. And that's what I found effective for me. But learning to do that and learning to not just use it in meditation, but to use it all the time. And because if you can get to that spot, like if you'll get hit psychically by something or whatever, and you kind of get blinded by it. But if you can just stop and go back to your breath and shut down that little voice, even for just half a second, it creates enough space for you to kind of overcome the emotional charge of the situation. So that's something I highly recommend. To me, it's Buddhist, Don Juan. They all talk about being able to quiet your mind. That seems to be a big key, no matter what tradition you go through. So, right. That's something. And then the great sea of awareness is, that's just what I've learned from Don Juan. That's just more of, we have kind of two sides of us being like the tonal, which is the everyday life, things that you can put your names to. And then there's the unknown, which is the nawal, which is all the things that you can't, the unspeakable things that we all witness.
Right. So people know that you're talking about the Carlos Castaneda books.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which I know have all kinds of baggage to go with those, but if you actually read the books, Don Juan says that Carlos is not if you read closely enough, Don Juan gives plenty of hints that Carlos was not a good person, but he was open to ways of being that weren't conducive to being like a true warrior. And it just takes a little. He mentions it. There's supposedly a Nawal has 4 sections to the aura, and Carlos only had 3. So he wasn't a true sorcerer the way they were. And it really opened him up to beings. Don Juan says it. It makes you really open to interdimensional beings being that way. And then if you think about the Draco way of things, the power and the narcissism and the just the controlling aspect of that, that's what he turned into. He had all these girls and all these things, and he had to do exactly what he said. He basically turned into the one thing. He turned into the petty tyrant, which is what Don Juan preached about not doing. And he just turned exactly into it.
That's crazy. I read the first 3 books over 40 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
When I was a teenager.
it's funny because I missed the first 2 books. I went right to the third one, so I missed all the drug experiences. So I don't have that association with it. So I just took it more of like, wonder what the hell these Native Americans are doing. Like, it's pretty interesting. And then it just, and I, back in my early 20s, and I was experimenting with different things. And that was the only thing that really made any sense out of those experiences. Like, okay, so I moved my assemblage point, which creates a whole different, quantum intake, and which creates a whole different world for you. And that's exactly what, tripping feels like. It's like it's the same world, but it's not the same world. It's completely different. And like Don Juan mentions that we have, he mentions that we have an energetic field, and there's a spot where the emanations inside line up with the emanations from everywhere else, and that alignment causes consciousness. And when you change your consciousness, you change your awareness, you're changing from one spot to another, or you're connecting with different parts of the quantum field, different parts of the great bands of awareness is what he calls them, the great bands of awareness.
Yeah.
So that's, what I would like to do is where I could start, putting a little bit more science down. Let's, try to at least put some science to some of what Don Juan says, because I think that the Nawal and the tonal, those 2 aspects, are very similar to the expression of a particle and the wave expression of any atom. There's like the solid, this life, and then there's the everything else, the infinite out there, and that's the wave. That's all the potentials, and basically I feel like, quantum physics is telling us exactly what it's all one big story anyways, but that's where I would like to weave that all together. Right. I'm trying to integrate some of this more. I want to bring, I'm trying to get some mainstream things in here so you can talk to people like normal people and have things to say and not just all be so woo-woo,
Mm-hmm. Right. I understand. But boy, I'm sure tempted to go back and read them books again.
Well, I highly recommend them. I laugh my ass off reading them. I think they're hilarious. once you get once you get the humor, like what they're trying, because that's how I understood Don Juan was like, okay, if I figure out what they're laughing at, if I get their humor, then I'm gonna understand what they're all about, because, humor is so, it's so unique to us. It's so us. It's so human. And all these other teachers all sit there and do nothing, and like they're laughing and doing all this fun stuff all the time. I'm like, I think I'll ride that bus, like that seems way more fun. So, that.
I was going to ask you about that too, because maybe not so much in this interview, but my feeling about you is that you probably do use that quite a bit. I do. I'm always giggling and laughing in my interviews and stuff, and I get comments about that and stuff, but it's just, when you're like looking at what you're looking at what I'm looking at, and you look at the interviews that I have, and that, I'm really not afraid of all this dark shit, I'm not. But the humor part of it's important. Because it is kind of like a therapeutic, it's balancing, it helps me not to take myself too seriously, which I have a tendency to do sometimes. And I try to take
human, but yes.
Yeah, I try to take the work seriously, but not myself seriously. And one of the ways to do that is to laugh, and it's critical, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. I would have killed myself long ago if I hadn't learned to laugh at all this. It's kind of, I had a teacher tell me that she said you need to cultivate divine nonchalance, and that's another thing where you just, all these things happen and you're just like, whatever, it's like, you don't, there's, right. It's a lot of it's a big ego reaction anyway. So, it's,
don't get sucked in.
Don't get sucked in. And Don Juan mentions like, a warrior might see like the scariest thing ever, and then 2 seconds later is laughing about it, So it seems to be important where you can't, like, it helps with being light, just being light. Laugh makes you light, this releases the heaviness and all this crap and depression and all that. Like it makes you light, and like Don Juan says to Carlos, like, you've added years to my life because I've laughed at you so much, you know, and like that's to me, that's good wisdom, you know, like that's some good wisdom right there. So yeah, obviously, I mean, that's all my friends. I mean, we laugh. I mean, we cultivate laughter for sure, because we don't really, I mean, there's some of us are very different in our spiritual beliefs, but we definitely do connect with that, you know.
That reminds me of like all my thumbnails on my videos. I always go through the video and I find, oh, there he's smiling. So I take a screen capture of that and I stick that on there. And I had somebody comment on one of my videos, "What are you knuckleheads smiling about? This is dark. This is bad news. What are you smiling about?" And I'm like, shit, I felt like success, you know, like,
right.
Because I'm just gonna do that because I don't want to put a picture of you up there like all sourpuss and all that, you know. Yeah.
No one wants to watch that. Like,
no.
I mean, I don't know.
But it's probably is false advertising.
No, I don't. Not for me, at least. It's not for me. Not for me at all. I mean, I'm a serious guy and seen some crazy shit, but totally. I mean, it's laughing is. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a good smile. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, it'll be on the thumbnail. Wow, so you got 7 dogs?
Yeah. Well, I had 11. I had a litter of puppies that I raised up, and come to find out, there's a market for being able to train dogs that don't eat chickens. So that's been really. There's a lot of farmers, a lot of backyard farmers and people around here that just have a few chickens, just like you do.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean.
So they keep the dogs out. They get your dogs and put them out with the chickens.
Yeah. Or just, you know, they don't have to worry about them, you know, and they can hang out outside, and it cuts down on the predators. I mean, it's basically just predator. And plus, my dogs don't like coming in. Like, they like staying outside.
Yeah.
They're just more dogs than pets to me. I mean, they kind of. The gate's open right now, and they can go roam when they're free. They live here. We share a space.
Okay. That's at our place we have 2 dogs, but my wife trains them for agility competitions.
Oh, cool.
So they're not out. They're like, you know, she calls them, what does she call them? Performance dogs.
Indeed.
So they're not like, you know, they're not, their primary purpose is not chicken protectors, which is what I would like to do. But anyway. Yeah.
Cool.
So, okay. So we chewed it up, but you know, I would be very open to doing another interview with you sometime if you ever have an epiphany or something else that you want to talk about.
For sure.
Totally open to that. And
if you ever had like a panel where you had more than one, you know, like Kevin and I or something like that.
Oh, like yeah.
I feel like that. I mean, hearing different perspectives out of the horse's mouth with everybody, where you can see everybody's reactions, and that to me, there's some power in that.
That's a great idea.
My humble opinion, you know, because
I'm actually going to be doing one like that with Penny and Tony on Saturday.
Cool.
With Penny, Bradley, and Tony. Yeah, so we're going to do that on Saturday.
Now, see, that's the thing. Tony's the one who makes me think that there actually is a space program because of his attitude and the way he comes across. Like,
yeah,
I definitely don't see him as I think he's definitely telling the truth. Like, I don't sense any lies from him. Like, I don't see that maniacal conniving thing. You know, I don't see that at all. Like, I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying that other people. I just say, like, he'll look right at the camera and says, yeah, and I said this, and he's not some like badass guy that's, you know, with superpowers. He's like, yeah, I was a warehouse worker. You know, like that's not. I mean, not he's obviously more than that, but more or less. I mean. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that I like that, and Miss Isley, I can't remember her first name, but
Niara.
Yes.
Yeah, she was on with Corey and David Wilcock, and it was amazing interview. She did a wonderful job, and the end was just worth the price of admission.
Cool.
I don't know if you saw that.
You saw her.
Yeah. I saw her on No, not in person, but they had her on Gaia episode of Gaia. Corey and David's show that they have, Cosmic Disclosure or whatever it's called, and she was on there, and so yeah, her testimony was very much more in alignment with what your testimony is in terms of. I mean, she ultimately has a positive message, but I mean, her experience as a Air Force, you know, someone in the Air Force and being, abducted and manipulated, and they did some awful things to her, and she told her story, and so it wasn't all light and woo-woo stuff, and then, again, there's nothing wrong with the light and woo-woo stuff.
Oh, absolutely, man.
I don't
awesome.
I don't have an axe to grind around that. I just think that there's more to it than that, and that I think, me personally, I think that your kind of testimony is kind of underrepresented in the whole SSP arena, and that and for whatever reason, I probably got guilt or something too. Who knows what the hell I did? Why am I so interested in this anyway? But I'm very drawn to like helping people like you tell your story. Penny, Tony, Kevin, all those people. I really like helping them if they want to go public. I like to be that platform for it. So I guess I'll figure out why later.
Well, I mean, just to be weird, Denny, you looked familiar to me when I saw you. Like you looked familiar to me somehow.
Shit.
So I mean, which is another reason why I contacted you. I was like, but it doesn't. Who knows? I mean, that could be a myriad of different things. But definitely.
I used to sell shoes in Arkansas.
Oh, did you?
No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing.
I figured as much.
I'm desperate now. Okay.
Cool. Well, yeah. Anytime. Yeah, absolutely. If I come up with something worth yapping about, I'll definitely we'll give you a ring for sure.
And I do like the idea of having a group. So if something like that starts to present itself, I will keep you in mind for sure.
I'm kind of a quiet guy in a group, so no problem. I will only speak when it's necessary, when I got something to say. So,
all right. Okay.
Well, great.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
Thank you so much, Denny.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Okay.
And I think it went really well, honestly.
I do too.
So.
All right.
Cool.
And thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you again.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank y'all.